I once heard someone say that they were built for show and not for work. And it sounded humorous at the time. But I wonder how many people actually pursue that as their goal. And that's what determines what we see as purpose in life. It's quite insane, actually, if you think about it. We've got this massive effort into how it is that we appear to others, how others see us, how they perceive us, how we want to be perceived, and all of that. And we put in all of this work to make sure that we age gracefully. Well, gracefully part is questionable, but that we age in a way that keeps the aesthetic looking youthful for as long as possible. And that's the whole problem, is that we're all so busy trying to look youthful and feel youthful that we don't have the conviction and the purpose and the idealism of youth. And I wonder often, what does it look like to have a life without purpose? Because if I consider all of the things that I keep encountering in the work that I do, in my own life, in the people around me and things like that, and there's one consistent underlying kind of contributing factor that people don't ever consider, and that is purpose. What does purpose look like? Do you even have purpose in your life? The problem is that we've all got purpose, but if we don't realize what that purpose is, we're going to assume that it's what we're supposed to do or what we're meant to do. Another bugbear of mine is when people talk about how it was meant to be, and this is what I was meant to do, and this is who I'm meant to be, and all of that nonsense. Meant in what way? By whom? And if that's the case, then why should you be accountable for anything that you do? Why should you be accountable for any effort that you need to put in to find conviction and to live with purpose? Because if it was meant to be, it's going to happen. So just sit back and relax and chill, And in fact, that's what most people do these days. They sit back, they relax, they chill, and they're waiting for life to take on some sort of amazing format that is going to feel so good and wholesome and fulfilling. People struggle. We all struggle because we lack purpose. And those of us that believe that we have purpose, we lack conviction for the most part. And if you want to see the difference between the two, purpose that we subscribe to without conviction will result in us talking a lot about what we think is important. And there's no shortage of commentators these days. Not on their own lives, not on the lives of others, not on global politics, and not on the global genocide that's happening as well. And I call it the global genocide because it's actually destroying humanity. It's not just destroying one nation or one people. But what we've seen come out of that is the greatest movement of orators, of people who can speak eloquently and resolutely about what is wrong with the world. But still not enough people who want to actually do something about it. People who still subscribe to the systems that create it, but don't want to do something to change those systems. People who still rely on the system to solve the problem that the system created. And this is not about politics. This is a universal truth that plays out in our lives and that plagues many people's lives, because those systems that we look at from a political perspective are the same systems that maintain the hierarchies and the patriarchy and the matriarchy that is prevalent in our homes, in our families. And then we blame and blame and blame, and we explain and explain and explain, and we go in online and we look for all sorts of reasons to believe that we're victims of this, and we're fighting epigenetics of 15 generations. And oh my God, isn't it exhausting to just go through life looking at it through that lens all the time? Sure, we can wake up in the morning and try to understand why it is that we are where we are, but that shouldn't be the entire focus of your life. Aesthetics, how we should look and what we want people to think of us, and how we need to hide our shame and hide everything that we don't want people to see as inadequate about us. Okay, fair enough, you want to maintain your dignity, I get that. But what then? What next? And I see this with especially men. I'm going to pick on men today because men, we've lost the plot. Look at it this way, right? We've got so many men who are now athletically built. Well, I'm not talking of America because they just have obesity all over the place. I'm talking of men who have purpose. Well, they live as if they have purpose. And they're focused on being this good aesthetic and this manly man, right? And then they go and they develop themselves in that way. And they develop themselves in a way that has this healthy appearance and this attractiveness and this well-groomed show. And my question is, okay, so now what? So you've got the six-pack. Now what? So you've got the daily routine, the gymming and the healthy diet and all of that, and you're taking all the supplements. Don't know why, but yeah, take it. And then what? And here's where I talk about purpose being something of conviction versus being a narrative, being a dialogue in our heads that we want to share with others. Talk about how amazing this is and how important that is, and look at how this person is doing this and how that leader is doing that. And everyone's an armchair critic these days, right? And social media just blows it out of proportion because we look for likes and reactions to see how many people agree with us. But how many of us take it beyond that? How many of us actually live with conviction all of those things that we talk about being so important? How many of us have a conscience that holds us accountable for what we claim is wrong with society, and what are we doing about that? Very few. Because if there was a critical mass in that, we wouldn't be where we are right now. So it's fine to go to the gym and to have this healthy lifestyle and to travel the world. But what are you doing with all of that? How does that bring to bear on the quality of life and the sanctity of the relationships that you have with the people around you? Or is everything just about me now, the me culture? Everything is about how it is that I need to be a certain way, and I need to feel a certain way, and I deserve certain things from the people around me, and all of these things. And when do we consider what are we supposed to be giving in return? What impact we have? What does purpose really look like? Are you in a better space today than you were yesterday because the people around you are in a better space than they were yesterday because of your contribution to them? Or do we stop at that first part? I'm in a better space today than I was yesterday. Period. Is that what we look for? Is that our benchmark of success? Am I doing better? What about the people around you? The people who have to deal with you trying to be better while they're not getting from you what it is that they need. What about them? What about this role that we want to claim as men to be leaders of society? There's an old prophetic tradition that we have where I come from. And in fact, this is something that I've been inclined to think about a lot these days, and that is that I need to just be more true to my convictions about what it is that I believe is important about the community I come from, rather than always wanting to emphasize how it is that what I think and what I feel and what I say and what I believe is important has universal relevance. I believe with conviction that it has universal relevance, but I think I need to ground the context of it more meaningfully in something that is relatable to the very space in which I arise from, so to speak. So that prophetic tradition that I was talking about says something to the effect that a nation will never be successful if it is led by women, or something to that effect, right? And most people look at it and they think that's because women are deficient as leaders. No, it's not. It's because by the time a woman has to take up the mantle of leadership, it means that men have failed. It means that men have not carried their weight in society. They've stepped back and become observers and commentators and entitled patriarchs, but they haven't actually done their due to make sure that society is safe, grounded, protected, morally astute, and ethically above reproach. Because that's what men are supposed to do. We're supposed to be able to lead through that analytical mind that we have. And this is something that psychology agrees with as well, strangely enough, is that men focus on things, problem solving, and technicalities, and women focus on people, nurturing and building relationships and establishing value systems. And that's what we've lost. We've lost that balance, because now everyone, both men and women, are focused on aesthetic. Prove me wrong. I would love to be proven wrong on this, but that's not the point. The point is not about whether I'm right or wrong. The point of this is that we need to reflect on what is the state in which we find ourselves as a community, as a society, as a global population, and then consider what are the underlying root causes of that. Because everyone's so busy wanting to prove how it is that my belief system is superior to your belief system, and my moral code is superior to your moral code, that there's very few people who's actually living it. And yes, we see the global movement and protests and everything else, but the protests have been going on for how long now? Almost 2 years, if not longer, because if you consider all the protests that were happening sporadically over the years for the last few decades, for people that knew about this from before it became this atrocity that it is now, then we have to wonder, how are we really progressing? Are we really making progress? Or have we reached a stalemate where you've got one party that is going to speak about the problems and the other party who knows that they can continue causing problems because no one's going to challenge them? And this again is true for our personal life. It's not just something that is true for politics and religious discourse in the public space. This is about personal conviction, right? If you don't live with personal conviction, you're going to let the people around you down. And here's the problem. If I don't live with purpose, that means that someone around me has to pick up the slack of what happens if I don't live with purpose. Because it's everyone living purposefully that creates a wholesome, grounded, balanced society. The moment there's someone who is not living purposefully, they're taking, they're not contributing. So when you consume more than you contribute, you become a liability. And that liability doesn't just disappear, it doesn't just go away into the background. It means that someone else has to overcompensate for it. And this is especially true in your personal life. If you're busy licking your wounds from your last encounter with fate, or destiny, or taqdeer, and you're still feeling sorry for yourself, and you're still interpreting everything within the context of childhood wounds and mother wounds and father wounds and all of those things, you are a liability. And people can tell me that that's harsh or insensitive or whatever it is, but there's a reality we have to face. There's a reality we have to face about the fact that yes, there is room for sympathy and empathy and compassion and all of those things. But at which point do we hold the victim, the person who believes they are so done in by life and so betrayed by the people around them, at which point do we hold each other accountable for stepping up and doing what we need to do anyway? These days, too many people want to be celebrated for how sympathetic they are because they have their bleeding hearts that the victims among us want to thrive on. There's a time and a place for everything, but even grief has its shelf life. Not just because you should be told how to grieve and how long to grieve, no. But because while you're grieving, you're still not progressing. You're not doing something with the life that you have while you're grieving the loss of the life that you don't have, or the person that you lost that was part of your life. When do we honor what it is that we have? What it is that we claim is sacred about life? When do we honor that as opposed to talking about it? As opposed to asking everyone to recognize how much we have, how good we are, how amazing we are for having been through all of that. There's a self-pity kind of leech that has embedded itself in public discourse these days about mental health. Everything is about the victim and making the victim feel better. No one's considering how it is that if you are a victim, who else is a victim of you being in that victim state? I don't think people want to answer that question. I don't think we're ready to consider that, because it seems as if that is considered unkind. Because everyone's so busy blaming genetics and blaming anatomy and blaming generations before and your ancestral heritage and all of that nonsense, that very few are taking accountability for what they don't like about their life. You've got agency, right? We've talked about this a number of times. You've got the ability to choose in the same way that you have the ability to choose to interpret and rationalize and frame things within the context of your heritage and what it is that you got from your family and your parents and your siblings and whoever else in society. In the same way that you're choosing to believe that that's the reason for who you are and why you can't move forward, it's that same ability to choose that, to rationalize that you can use to rationalize things differently and to choose differently. Mind-blowing, isn't it? That we are so invested in wanting to prove that we are better than the previous generation that we don't realize that we're not achieving half of what the previous generations have achieved. Because we've lost sight of a very basic fundamental of what it is that makes society function. Credibility. If we are not credible, then people around us can't take comfort from us. And if we base credibility on popularity, which is pretty much the mainstream way of looking at credibility these days, those who are most popular are the ones that are celebrated. And the moment we look at it from that perspective, we automatically assume that because everyone subscribes to that view of credibility, that must be true. And then we measure ourselves by that same view of credibility. How many people agree with us? How many people side with us? Because we don't have critical thinking. We don't have the ability to be able to rise above how we feel about something to see whether or not the way we feel about it is actually important or true or justified or warranted or understandable. Just because we wake up in the morning feeling like we don't have a list for the day, we don't have any inclination to want to do something with the day, doesn't mean that we're right about it. It just means we feel that way. For any number of reasons. We could have had a bad dream, we could have had a restless night, we just have maybe something that we're not looking forward to, or there's something that didn't work out the day before. It doesn't change what it is that the day demands from us. But too many people surrender to that. We surrender to that feeling of lethargy and exhaustion and self-pity. The self-pity one is such a prevalent one. It is so, if anything is toxic, it's self-pity. If I'm going to use one of those mainstream terms, then toxicity is what self-pity looks like. You want to be a toxic person, feel sorry for yourself. Because while you're feeling sorry for yourself, you're needing everyone around you to recognize how bad you have it. And while you need them to recognize how bad you have it, you're expecting them to do what they need to do so that you can feel better without realizing that they also have lives. They also have needs, they also have expectations, and they also have rights. So the moment one person is wallowing away in self-pity, lamenting and grieving over the life they didn't have and the life that was taken from them and the life they were denied and all of those things and past experiences and everything else, the moment you're wallowing in self-pity about it, you're part of the problem. Because people who cause harm to others are people who believe that their pain is more important than the pain of the people around them. That their experiences are more important than the experiences of the people around them. That what it is that they need from others is more important than what others need from them. That's self-pity. And self-pity just destroys. It doesn't build anything up. It doesn't build you up. It doesn't build up the people around you. It doesn't solve any problems. It just keeps you rooted, tethered, tied, anchored to that point in the past that you're feeling sorry about. Sorry for yourself about. And that's how we end up living without purpose. Because we're so in desperate need for people to see how bad we've got it. And despite how bad we've got it, look how I'm showing up. That's your narrative. That's not the way people see you. That's your internal compass that keeps driving you to believe that people must make excuses for me because, I got it tough. You don't know what my life was like. There's no shortage of people who become public figures and influencers and all sorts of nonsense because they're busy wearing their heart on their sleeve and their past traumas and their past experiences on their sleeve to say, yeah, look, this is what I've been through and look how... There's a time and a place for everything. If you're having a one-on-one personal discussion or workshop to help someone to figure something out, by all means do it. Beyond that, you have to help create understanding, support, wholesomeness, balance about how it is that life needs to be lived, not discussed, not theorized and philosophized and all of that nonsense. If you spend your time just philosophizing and idealizing and all of that about life and about the life you want your children to have that you didn't have and all of that, you're not spending enough time living. We learn through experience, not through lectures, not through fancy orations and people who can speak colorful language and flowery language and beautiful words that make you feel good in the moment but leave you with nothing to actually act on. We need to get out of our heads and into reality, into the life that we have. Because when you do that, you can actually learn from getting things wrong. But if you're going to always think about how things could go wrong and that's why you're not ready to do it, you'll never learn from it. Because eventually, by the time you understand everything about it before you even try, guess what? Chances are what you wanted to do is no longer relevant. Doesn't have purpose or relevance anymore to what it is that's happening around you. And that's why you end up with people who have midlife crises. Why? Because they were always living in fear all the time about that point in the future when things will be better. Until eventually they can't wait for that future point to be better anymore, and then they blame people around them and they blame life and they blame everything else. And then they just go radical and they start being selfish about everything that they should have done. As if they were actively prevented. Majority of us are not actively prevented from doing what it is that we want to do. We prevent ourselves because we're feeling sorry for ourselves. Because we are so busy overanalyzing all the things that could go wrong that we're afraid people are going to judge us about being failures at or inadequate at or whatever it is, that we've lost the joy of just living in the moment. The aesthetic is one of the most horrible distractions you could ever have. Think about, you go online and you look at all of these reels on social media and you look at the amount of people that get hundreds of thousands of reactions sometimes just because they smiled at the camera while there was some nice song playing in the background. Seriously? All this massively amazing opportunity that we have with technology and capability and opportunity these days. And the best we can do is post selfies and self-indulgent reels and wanting to get reactions. Everyone says we need to change the world, but we're taking the tools that are available to us to change the world and we're using it to immerse ourselves into what we don't like about the world or to escape the world that we have. I don't know, there's something just, I can't put my finger on it, but when do we see reality for what it is rather than for what we need it to be? There's a time for inspiration and aspiration and a time for conviction. But if there's no conviction, your inspiration and aspiration is just fluff. It's just window dressing. It's just what you want people to appreciate about you. Look at how I am so intellectual about this or philosophical about that. Look at how creative I am. Look at how artistic I can be. Then what? What are you doing that actually touches and changes lives? Not your life, the lives of the people around you. How are you uplifting? How are you giving back? Because every single day that you wake up and you've got certain conveniences available to you, chances are you didn't do it by yourself, because no man is an island. And again, I want to remind you that I'm directing today's discussion for the most part to men, because men have become so self-absorbed, it's actually pathetic. Since when have men worried about buffing their nails and wanting to have an aesthetic so that they can appear to be all that, but not actually do something meaningful with their lives? Something practical, something real, something that actually creates benefit for society, something that advances the case of society, that progresses the standard of living and things like that, upholds justice, establishes goodness and things. What happened to all of that? We outsourced it now to government and public figures. You have to do that in your own life. In the life that you have, there are people around you that are dependent on you. And the problem we have is that most men these days want to claim the privilege of being men in their traditional roles, in their traditional family structures and things. But beyond the privilege, they don't want to fulfill the rights. They don't want to step up and actually own that space. They want to feel sorry for themselves, and they want to reduce themselves to being just providers. There are a lot of good men out there, no doubt about it. If there wasn't, we would have complete anarchy in the world right now. But the fact that we're teetering on the brink of anarchy in a lot of spaces proves that men need to step up. We can't on the one hand say that we are providers and protectors, and on the other hand behave as if we are models. And I'm talking of aesthetic models, not models of goodness and morality and ethics. This is not a rant, it's a plea. It's a plea for us to step back and realize that self-pity and being self-absorbed, which is pretty much a consequence of self-pity and insecurity. When you're self-absorbed, it's you looking to make yourself feel good about something because you don't think others see that goodness in you. So you put in extra effort to make sure that they can't deny it or they can't avoid it. They have to see it and acknowledge it. What's the point of it? What's the point of having the aesthetic? What's the point of driving the nice car and having the nice career and all of that? No? Beyond that, what does it enable? How does it contribute to society? How does it contribute to your community, to your family unit? Is it purely because you can give them the best material kind of access that they need? And access, I mean like excessive stuff that they need, so that they can feel happy about the fact that you've provided them with all of that? How many families, how many children, how many adults even today are struggling with the fact that they didn't have any meaningful bonds, any meaningful relationship with their parents, with their fathers, because everything was compensated for by what they gave. They paid for this and they gave me that, and they sent me here, and they took us on these holidays. But when it came down to actually having a meaningful conversation about what fires you up, you can't have that, because there's just silence in return, or there's judgment, or there's a diminishing of it, because like, oh no, well, you must do something that's going to earn you money, you must get a good career, or you must get a good job, or whatever it is, because what will people think of you? The purpose of life is not to be a provider. That's just the basics. And this is the problem with both men and women. We've lost sight of what the basics are, and we look at achieving the basics as this fantastic achievement. Like, you can't fault me because look, I'm paying the bills and I'm providing. So what? What now? What is the purpose of that? You're providing to what end? What is it that you're supposed to create beyond that? Or is the purpose of life to wake up every day, make sure you have your meals 2 or 3 or 5, whatever it is that your target is, because of what your guru told you is supposed to be a healthy way of life? Is that the purpose of life? And then to have the certain aesthetic so that you look good every day, and you polish yourself up in the way your appearance every day, and you have the right clothes and the right labels and the right job in the right neighborhood. Is that the purpose of life? What is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of your life? What legacy are you leaving? Is the world a better place because of you being in it, or is it just a more material place because of you being in it? We need to be honest with ourselves and consider what it is that we're doing with this precious gift that everyone wants to celebrate, life. Such an amazing gift that you must live every day to its fullest. How many of you are actually doing that? Or are you too distracted by what you feel sorry for yourself about? That's why it is that you're waiting for the right time to do something. You're waiting for the right reaction from the people around you. You're waiting for the right person to notice you. Self-pity will kill you. It will kill your spirit, and it will kill the spirit of the people around you. It is the heaviest energy you can possibly imagine, is feeling sorry for yourself. It weighs you down and it drags everyone around you down with you. Self-pity is of no consequence besides negative consequences. It holds you back. So what? Yes, you've acknowledged, you've licked your wounds, you've spoken about it. Now what? Move beyond it. Who are you letting down while you're feeling sorry for yourself because someone let you down? Who is wanting to live with purpose but they can't follow their true convictions because of the weight that they have attached to them, because of the responsibilities they're fulfilling towards someone who is not fulfilling their rights in the first place? Are you that person who is not fulfilling someone else's rights, which is preventing them from moving in the direction they want to, or building what it is that they want to, because they are honoring the responsibilities that they have and they're picking up the slack from who it is that's dropping the ball around them? Because if everyone around us was selfish in that way, society would have completely crumbled by now. So for every person who is heavily and disproportionately invested in their aesthetic, understand that you are placing a massive burden on people around you without realizing it. And that is where ingratitude comes from. Your self-pity directs you towards feeling sorry for yourself about everything you don't have, but not being grateful for everything that you do have. And gratitude is not reflected in what you acknowledge. That's appreciation. Gratitude is reflected in what you do with what you claim you appreciate in your life, who you appreciate in your life. If you claim you appreciate so many things and you live with this attitude of gratitude and all of that, what are you doing with it? What are you creating beyond your own selfish needs? What are you doing to serve a need greater than your own personal objectives? Do you even service people around you because you want to feel good about doing it, or because you genuinely look in their eyes and you want them to feel the benefit of that? What drives you? Where's your conviction? Where's your purpose in life? Do you have it? Or have you lost yourself to feeling sorry for yourself, or waiting for the right moment and the right time before something will give you reason to want to live with conviction, to wake up in the morning and realize that you've got another day ahead of you that you can leverage to leave an imprint of benefit and goodness in this world? When will your aesthetic stop being your priority and substance of life start driving that fulfillment that you're looking for? Today is the best day to start. Don't delay it another day.